Anywho, let's welcome to the show Dr. Barbara Oakley. She's an associate engineering professor at Oakland University in Rochester, Michigan. And she's the author of a book called Evil Genes, Why Rome Fell, Hitler Rose, Enron Failed, and My Sister Stole My Mother's Boyfriend. She knows evil like I know weevils. They cost me my upstate farm, don't you know? Hey, Dr. O, that is a really long title for a book. Did your sister really steal your mom's boyfriend?
She did steal my mother's boyfriend. In fact, what happened was my mom always wanted to go to Paris, and late in life she met a man who was going to make her dream come true, and as soon as my sister heard about it, she moved from Southern California to Washington State, and right next to the man who was going to take my mom to Paris. Next thing you know, they were on the plane to Paris together. My mother was left behind, and they were clinking around Paris together because he was 80, she was 40, so he's 40 years older than her. He was on oxygen, so they were clinking around, and as soon as they got back, she dropped him like a hot rock.
So Dr. Oakley, I have a theory. This book that you've written about the nature of evil was just an excuse to get back at your sister.
Well, don't tell anyone else that, but, you know, probably it was somewhat behind that.
All right. You've been called the female Indiana Jones. Why is that?
Well, I went into the military right out of high school, and I started out a private, ended up a captain, and then I worked up in the Russian trawlers on the Bering Sea as a Russian translator for a while, and went down to the South Pole and met my husband when I was working there, and so I always say I had to go to the ends of the earth to meet that man. And so I've traveled around a bit before I got into academia, and I guess that's why they call me that.
Well, that is an amazing story. Now I got to talk to you about this book. What explain to me what is evil? What makes something evil?
Probably one of the biggest traits I've been meaning to talk to you about, Greg, is narcissism.
Yeah.
Continue.
Actually, it's one of the most strongly heritable of traits, although I think that in your case it may have skipped a generation because your mom seems very nice.
Yes, he does. He does. You know, it's a good point, though. I've read about criminals and why the self-esteem movement is so bankrupt or wrong, because telling people to feel good about themselves actually makes them evil. Is that right?
Well, if you've already got a pretty darn good opinion of yourself, which is the case with many psychopaths, then when they hear it, it just feeds their ego. So it's not a good thing. In fact, some of the training that they've been trying to give psychopaths, when psychologists try and give them training, it actually makes them be better psychopaths, and so they go out and get into jail even more quickly. Again.
Is there any way you can tell that people are evil just by looking at them? I mean, I look at Jeffrey Dahmer. He was an evil guy, but he was kind of gorgeous, wasn't he?
He was handsome.
He was very handsome.
So hot.
Well, about the best way to be able to tell is not by talking to that person, but by talking to other people and getting the reflections off of those other people, because they won't show it necessarily to you, but they will show it sometimes to the people they think are kind of like the little people that don't deserve being nice to.
Now, can you treat evil?
So that's probably the best way.
Can you treat evil? Can you make somebody unevil?
If they are a psychopath, there's really no way you can make them unevil. If they have some of the symptoms of borderline personality disorder, you can do some things to help that person. But the hard part about it is that they don't realize there's anything that's wrong with them. That's part of the nature of the disorder. And so they don't have any motivation to try and fix themselves because they don't think there's anything wrong with them. So it's only by setting boundaries and limits that they can.
Yeah, I got time for one more question. You mentioned in your book that all politicians need these evil traits. Does that make all politicians evil?
No, but if you're going to deal with someone who does have some of these kinds of traits, you do need to have at least enough of it to be able to understand what kind of thing you're dealing with.
Am I evil?
Yeah. You are one of the nicest guys on TV.
Oh. yourself.
Notice she said the qualifier on TV.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Once I'm off TV, I'm a degrading, horrible little man.
There's a reason I live.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Oakley. A pleasure having you on the show. Congratulations on the book. It's amazing. A whole book about evil. All right.